He walks alone. The world does not know his name, nor does he seek for it to be remembered. The wind moves through the tall grass of forgotten fields, and each step he takes sounds like a whisper to the past. They call him the Silent Ronin, a warrior without master, without home, without applause. He is the embodiment of calm power, the storm contained within a man. When he moves, he does not chase glory. He chases balance. He is the lesson every restless soul must learn. That true strength has no need to announce itself. It simply is. Long before the noise of ambition filled our cities, there were men who understood the power of stillness. They fought their wars not for fame, but for purpose. The Silent Ronin carries that same purpose in his eyes, the unspoken vow to live with honor even when the world forgets what honor means. In his silence lies wisdom, in his restraint lies unimaginable power. Each breath he takes is a meditation, each moment of pain, a teacher. He has fallen more times than he can count, yet every time he rises, he does so quieter, stronger, and wiser. People think silence is weakness, but the Ronin knows silence is discipline. It is the art of holding the sword steady when others swing blindly. It is the courage to walk away when pride demands a fight. It is the patience to wait for the right moment when others rush into chaos. He listens more than he speaks because every word has weight. Every glance carries meaning. He does not react to insults, nor does he justify his path. His strength is internal, a fire that burns without the need for witnesses. Imagine him standing beneath the crimson sky of dusk, his shadow stretching long across the ground. The world around him screams with conflict, noise, temptation, but his eyes remain fixed on the horizon. He does not fight the storm. He becomes the calm within. That is what makes him dangerous, not his blade, but his mind. A man who has conquered himself cannot be defeated by others. In life, we are all warriors of a different kind. We battle doubt, fear, expectation, and failure. The Silent Ronin teaches that the real battlefield lies not outside, but within our own hearts. It is easy to fight an enemy you can see. It is far harder to fight the one that lives in your thoughts. Every distraction is a sword against your focus. Every temptation, a wound to your discipline. The Ronin has learned to master both blade and thought. His sword may rest, but his mind is always sharp. He wakes before the sun not because he must, but because dawn is sacred, the hour when the world is quiet enough to hear the voice of purpose. He trains not to defeat others, but to perfect himself. Every cut he makes through the air, every repetition of his form is a reminder that excellence is born in solitude, not in applause. The world may never see his preparation, but that is the point. The unseen effort is the purest form of strength. There are those who chase power loudly, who demand to be seen, to be celebrated. The Ronin watches them with calm eyes, knowing their noise will fade. His power endures because it is built on silence, not spectacle. He has faced humiliation, rejection, and betrayal, yet he does not carry hatred in his heart. He carries lessons. In his silence he forgives, not because others deserve peace, but because he deserves freedom. When he walks through villages, people sense something different, not the fear of a warrior, but the gravity of a man who has seen his own soul and survived the reflection. They feel it in the air around him, the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs the world's validation. That presence cannot be faked. It comes only from years of fighting battles no one else witnessed, from bleeding silently and healing alone. The Ronin story is not one of conquest, it is one of self-mastery. Many will not understand him. They will call his silence arrogance, his distance pride, but he does not explain, because explanation is unnecessary to those who do not listen. He walks on step by step through seasons of loneliness and revelation, each moment carving deeper understanding into his spirit. His solitude is not punishment, it is purification. In silence he meets his truest self, and that is where real strength is born. If you listen closely, you will hear that same silence in yourself. The moments before you speak, the pause before you act, the calm breath before a decision. Those are the moments of power. The Ronin's way is not a relic of the past. It is a path for every modern soul drowning in noise. To be silent strength is to remember that greatness rarely shouts. It whispers through consistency, discipline, and patience. To be silent strength is to remember that greatness rarely shouts. It moves quietly through the lives it changes and the challenges it endures. The silent Ronin walks across the years with that awareness in his heart. He knows that everything lasting grows slowly, just like a tree that takes decades before it gives shade. He does not rush his destiny, because haste is the language of fear, patience is the rhythm of mastery. He sharpens his blade slowly, methodically, each motion deliberate, each breath aligned with purpose. The metal sings softly against the whetstone, a reminder that refinement is a quiet process. Every strike he avoided, every word he held back, every battle he fought within has tempered his spirit until it gleams with control. When you look at your own journey, remember the Ronin's silence. Each failure you carry can either become a weight or a weapon. If you study it, understand it, and grow from it, you forge yourself into something unbreakable. The Ronin never asked for easy paths. He asked for clarity. For him, clarity was the truest reward, because clarity allows a man to act without hesitation and to rest without regret. He moves through life like a river, sometimes fierce, sometimes calm, but always forward. Nothing stops him completely. Obstacles simply redirect his current. He has learned that anger is a quick flame that blinds more than it burns. So he extinguishes it before it spreads, choosing discipline over reaction. He knows that silence often cuts deeper than shouting, because silence demands that others face their own noise. He teaches through example, through presence, through the small daily choices that build character. The Ronin's way is not about withdrawal from the world. It is about mastery within it. He is silent, not because he fears the world, but because he understands it too well. You too can become a Ronin in your own life, not a wanderer with a sword, but a soul who chooses purpose over distraction. To do that, you must learn to be alone without being lonely, to act without the need for witnesses, to speak less but mean more. Society celebrates noise because it mistakes visibility for value. But the Silent Ronin reminds you that your value is not in how loudly you perform. It is in how steadily you persist. When night falls and the world is quiet, the Ronin sits by a fire and reflects on the day. He remembers the people he helped, the mistakes he made, the lessons he learned. Fought. His silence is not empty. It is full of questions, full of gratitude, full of quiet determination. He knows tomorrow will test him again, but he welcomes the test. Because the test is the teacher. He sleeps with no fear of the dawn, because he has already faced the darkness inside himself. That is the secret of silent strength. When you stop fighting what you cannot control and start mastering what you can, you become untouchable. The storms may rage around you, but within you remain still like the mountain. No words, no anger, no noise, only focus, only direction, only peace. He sits beneath the fading stars while dawn stretches its first pale light across the horizon. The air is cold, but inside him there is warmth born of purpose. He has no banners, no followers, no temple to his name. Yet the world seems to bend slightly around his calm, as if even nature recognizes a man who carries peace instead of pride. He rises, brushes the dust from his cloak, and begins to walk again. His steps are measured, his gaze forward. He does not ask the path to be easy. He asks only that it be true. In a small village, he passes a young man shouting at the heavens. The boy's dreams have broken against the rocks of failure. The Ronin stops not to preach, but to listen. His silence unnerves the boy more than any advice could. The boy's anger drains away until he too is quiet, until the only sound is the wind. The Ronin places a hand on the young man's shoulder and says a single line, "Do not mistake noise for strength." Then he walks on. The boy will remember those words for the rest of his life. Each encounter leaves behind a ripple. Some people change, others don't. But the Ronin never measures his impact. He knows that every lesson, like every sword cut, takes time to sink in. He moves through markets, forests, ruins, always observing, always learning. He has seen men destroy themselves chasing validation. He has seen others grow stronger in silence and service. He understands that strength is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. At times, he falters. He feels the pull of loneliness of death. There are nights when even the stars seem indifferent, but he does not run from the emptiness. He sits with it, he studies it. He allows it to strip away the false layers of ego until only truth remains. That is his meditation, not to escape pain, but to understand it. Pain, he has learned, is the mirror that shows who we really are. One evening, he encounters a warlord whose army has conquered a province. The warlord mocks him for walking alone. What power can one man hold without a clan? He laughs. The Ronin bows slightly and replies, "The kind of power that cannot be taken." The warlord attacks in anger. His men charge forward, but the Ronin doesn't move until the last second, his body flowing like water, his blade flashing once, then silence again. When the dust clears, the warlord's sword is broken in half. The Ronin sheaths his weapon and walks away, leaving the man alive but defeated, not by death, by realization. The warlord will learn that uncontrolled pride is the truest enemy. As the years pass, the Ronin's hair turns silver. His movement's slow, but his perception sharpens. He teaches quietly, sometimes through words, more often through example. People begin to call him a master. But he rejects the title. "I am still learning," he says, because he knows that mastery is not a destination. It is a rhythm, a conversation between persistence and humility. He finds beauty in repetition, in the daily rituals that keep the spirit clean. In your life, the Ronin's lesson is clear. Do not measure yourself by how loudly you win, but by how gracefully you endure. The world will not always reward your discipline. Many will mistake it for indifference. But the moment you act only for recognition, you become a servant to noise. True mastery is when you do the right thing, even when no one notices. That is the essence of silent strength. He keeps walking until the road becomes dust and the dust becomes memory. Years slip by quietly, the way seasons blend into one another when a man stops counting them. Each morning he still sharpens his blade, not for war, but for ritual. The edge reminds him that discipline dulls if neglected. He has learned to find peace in repetition. Every motion, from lighting a fire to tying his cloak, becomes a small act of meditation. Sometimes travelers recognize him and ask for advice. They expect secrets, techniques, formulas. He gives them stories instead. Small, unadorned tales about patience, about seeing clearly before acting. Most leave unsatisfied. They wanted shortcuts. But a few stay pondering his words, and something in them changes silently. The Ronin knows that wisdom cannot be poured into another. It must be awakened. He remembers his younger years when rage burned through him like wildfire. When his master fell and his comrades betrayed him, he vowed revenge. For years that vow was his only companion until he realized vengeance was only another form of bondage. To forgive was not to forget. It was to release himself from the chain. He learned that forgiveness is not a gift to the offender, but an act of self-liberation. Since then, his sword has been drawn only when absolutely necessary. At twilight, he often watches the horizon where land meets sky. That line reminds him of the boundary between thought and action, between impulse and intention. He speaks to the wind as if to an old friend. The past taught him how to survive. The present teaches him how to live. The future, he whispers, is not something to chase, but something to prepare for. When storms come, he does not seek shelter immediately. He stands beneath the rain and listens. The thunder echoes the battles within him long ago. The lightning paints brief memories of the faces he once knew. In those flashes he understands, the world is vast, but the same lessons repeat everywhere. Humility, discipline, compassion, control. When the storm passes, he feels lighter, as if each drop has washed away another layer of pride. One evening, he meets a group of soldiers resting by the road. They boast loudly about their victories, their conquests, their rewards. The Ronin sits near the fire without speaking. At first, they mock his silence, but as the night deepens, their laughter fades. They begin to ask him questions about honor, about loss, about fear. His answers are short yet heavy, like stones dropped into still water. Each ripple reaches them differently. One feels shame, another curiosity, a third inspiration. When dawn comes, they rise quietly. Even their armor seems less noisy. The Ronin continues on alone. His steps are slower now, but surer. He feels no need to reach anywhere because every moment is a destination. When he meets cruelty, he responds with calm. When he meets kindness, he bows in gratitude. He has become a mirror reflecting what others bring, teaching without claiming to teach. Those who truly see him realize the lesson is not in his sword, but in his stillness. He knows one day his body will fail and his blade will rest forever, but he is unafraid. Death, he believes, is just another silence to master. He will walk into it the same way he walked through life, with eyes open, breath steady, heart clear. For those who follow his example, the message is simple. Become your own master. Live with intention. Fight the battles that matter. Ignore the noise that doesn't. Build strength quietly, serve humbly, learn endlessly. And when the world demands that you shout to be heard, remember the Silent Ronin, who proved that a whisper of integrity outlasts an empire of noise. He wakes before the final dawn, when the world is a shade of silver and everything holds its breath. He stands at the edge of a cliff that overlooks the sea. The wind pulls at his cloak, the waves crash far below, and for a long moment, he simply watches. Each sound, each movement feels like a memory. The clang of steel, the cries of battle, the laughter of students, the silence that followed every victory and every loss. He breathes it all in, the whole weight of his years, and lets it go in one slow exhale. He no longer needs the sword strapped to his side. Oh what? It hangs there like a relic, its edge dulled by time and mercy. He understands now that the greatest battles were never fought with it, but with the fears and desires that once owned him. He unbinds the sheath and lays the sword upon the stone. The blade catches the first light of sunrise and gleams like a final salute. He bows to it, not in farewell, but in gratitude, and steps back. Below, the tide rises. The sea does not roar in anger. It whispers as if speaking the same language that has guided him all his life. He closes his eyes and listens. Each sound of the water reminds him of the people who will come after, the wanderers, seekers, and dreamers still learning how to walk alone. He knows they will find strength where he found it, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. He turns away from the sea and begins to walk inland again. His steps are slow but steady. There is no destination, only movement. Each step is a heartbeat, each breath a prayer for the world to remember what silence can teach. The road curves toward a valley shrouded in morning mist, and his figure dissolves into it. One man among millions, yet somehow more than that. A living idea. That peace is not the absence of struggle, but the mastery. The narrator's voice softens here, carrying the message outward as if speaking to every listener directly. You will meet your own storms, your own betrayals, your own moments of doubt. You will feel lost, alone, unseen. But within you is the same stillness that guided the Silent Ronin. You were born with it. You only need to remember it. When the world demands that you hurry, slow down. When people provoke you, stay calm. When everything around you falls into chaos, be the one who remains centered. That is where true strength lives. The Ronin's journey ends not with a battle, but with understanding. He showed that silence is not emptiness. It is focus. It is the space where decisions are made and destinies shaped. He lived without shouting, without boasting, yet his story echoes louder than any victory cry. And so as the light of dawn expands across the land, his path becomes a mirror for yours. No matter who you are or where you stand, you can walk your life with the same quiet dignity. With patience, discipline, and compassion, you can turn pain into wisdom and solitude into strength. The sea keeps moving. The wind keeps whispering. The Ronin is gone, yet his lesson remains. The world may chase noise, but it is silence that endures. It builds mountains, heals wounds, creates clarity. If you ever forget this truth, step outside one morning before the world awakens. Listen to the wind between the trees. That is where you'll find him, not as a man, but as a feeling, a presence, a reminder. That strength is not always roar. Sometimes it simply breathes. That is the way of the Silent Ronin. That is silent strength.